Okay, we're getting very close. I just brought the y-axis in and I double checked the measurement to make sure it was 1,000 millimeters. It is. So we're going to make some marks on this to get it positioned properly on this. And I'm going to mark this up here to get it centered. Now, what I want to do is measure between these, and it should be 389 to 390. It is 389. Okay, that's what I cut those to. So halfway would be 194 and a half. Okay, so I'm going to mark at 194 and a half. It's just close. I'll double check the measurements later. And then I'm going to mark about, this is 80. So I want to mark about 40 to either side. I'm going to go about 41 to either side, and then that'll tell me where to position this. And then I'll use my square to draw a mark across the whole thing that I can see when I'm placing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll double check the measurements as we're assembling. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to measure, and I've already done this, but I want to measure this, the back of the x-axis should be lined up plumb with the back edge of this crossbeam. So I'm going to measure from here, from the back, and I want to measure to the front of this C-beam XL gantry plate, because I know the distance from it to the center of the router mount is 54.5 millimeters from the drawings. Now when I measure this, I get it's 94 and a half. 94 and a half. So with 94.5 and 54.5, that gives us 149 millimeters. So it's 149 millimeters from the back of this to where the bit will be over the board. And I want that to be over the 500 millimeter mark on the y-axis. So the y-axis is going to hang out on both ends, okay? But what I want is it's going to hang out more on the back, okay? So for the bit to be exactly over the center of the y, I'll take the 149, subtract that from the 500, which gives me 351. So I want to measure 351 from the back. I'm going to put a mark at 351 millimeters. Okay. I'm going to do that on both sides. Let me double check that. I'm going to go ahead and draw a mark all the way across. Now this is on the bottom, but that's okay because I'm going to put it on the side so I can see it. So I mainly just need to make sure I get to the ends there. Okay. And then I'm going to draw it around the side. I just need to be able to see it Now I'm going to line those marks up. When I put this in position, I'm going to put them back here. Line it up with the back of this. And that should get the bit centered exactly over the center of this. That'll give me maximum travel. That'll be able to take advantage of the maximum travel of the y-axis. Okay, now I'm not going to worry about marking the center back here because I'll get this lined up and then I will measure the distance between the sides to make sure I get it lined up good. Okay, so now that I've got it marked, I can go ahead and put it in place. Now, because it's going to hang out so far in the back, I've got a piece of scrap V-slot from another project, and I'm going to use that to support the back. That's why I added a couple of extra T-nuts back here. Eventually that will be mounted. Right now it's just going to sit on it because I'm out of, I've got to order some more corner brackets. So, let me get things a little bit repositioned here. Let's see. In order for you to see this, I think I'll turn that around. So, set that out of the way a minute. Done with that. I'm going to turn this around. And let me go ahead and get this in there for the support. And then I will feed it through. Now, I've got these marks that I just made. I want to line those marks up with this back here. So, now this is going to hang over 351 millimeters. Calculated, measured, it's going to be about 120. It's going to hang out about 118 to 120 on the other end. And I'm not worried about this end. That's not too much. When I complete my when I build cut my new gantry plate, and with my spoiler board and everything, I'm still going to have, there'll be 4 pairs of wheels. So 8 wheels, and 6 of the V wheels will still be over the main part of the structure. So that's not gonna hurt anything. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and loosely fit in these nuts. Now I had placed these temporarily. I'm going to do these. I know you can't see it, but you know what I'm doing. And I'm going to line up the beam between those 2 marks I made. Okay? Get this. And line up the, I've got those all the way to the back. Probably good to do this before you set it into place, but I've got it there. So line up all your T-nuts. That one lined up. That one's lined up. Now you're going to need 10 millimeter screws for this. So I've still got some 10 millimeter screws in my mini mill stash. I think I'm actually going to need this third one. Go ahead and get those started up here. Now once you get them started, You don't have to snug them in. I want to center this between these two marks I made on the front beam. Okay, now I don't want to tighten them too much because I want to be able to position that in the back at my marks at the 351 millimeter mark. So I'm going to leave those a little loose. Okay, get that centered. And then I'm going to line this up. I'm going to get my marks in line with this. Then I want to get these loosened up so we slide them over and line up. And then I need 2 more 10 millimeter screws. See if I can get these started in there. Double check that that's lined up. That is. Double check at the front that you're centered. That is. Then we're going to see that our back is centered. Now I'm going to measure from here to this. Okay. That's 120, 110. I need to come over about 5. Oh, come on. I got those too tight. I need to come over a little, make sure I'm centered in the front. Go ahead and tighten these down just a little bit more to keep them from sliding so easily. Not too tight because I want it to be able to twist a little. So let's check that now. We're at 116. Well, very close. $115.5. Okay, it's about 116 actually, just a hair less than 116. 116. So, and I've got my mark lined up here. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down in place. These marks are still lined up. I want to double check the front that I'm still between my 2 marks. That's perfect. But I can double check the measurement. $154.5 either direction. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down. And then crank these others down. I know you probably can't see this, but you know what I'm doing, so it's okay. Okay, that's in place. You just need to crank these down, they weren't tight. Double check this one more time since I did move that just a hair. It's right at 116. 116, perfect. Okay, so that is done. We have the Y-axis installed. Now, if you use a support for the rear end and you have your already have your enough corner brackets, you can go ahead and install those now. I don't, so it's just going to rest on it until I get the order in for my other order in with the replacement V-wheels and stuff. Now, while we're here, let's go ahead and mount the power supply. I had put these two T-nuts in here for the power supply. Let's bring that back in. Now, there's not going to be enough room to mount the controller to. So I'm not going to worry about it, except I'm going to keep the power supply to this end because I'm going to mount my controller right here. So I want to put it pretty much as far to this end as I can. And for this, I think we're going to need two more 8mm screws from your new parts. Now, if you're using the drop-in T-nuts, that's fine. I just wanted to use standard T-nuts. Okay, so I'm going to move that all the way to this side. Okay. That's good. So I will be mounting my controller along here. I've actually got to work on the wiring on the X-axis a bit, but so I'll do that later. But it will go on the inside here, and I'll position the height of it, whatever's convenient for getting all the wiring done and everything. Okay. So that pretty much completes the build. Still have to put the router back, but that's not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and flip this around so you can get a good view of it. It's getting pretty heavy now. So there it is, Mini Mill XL. Beautiful. I did want to point out one more thing. We used all the parts from the mini mill that we could. That was the goal for me. And I wanted to show you what I did not use from the mini mill. I got a couple of 15mm screws. Looks like a half dozen self-tapping screws, about 10mm screws. I didn't use any of these plates, so those are left. I only used two of these that came with a mini mill, so I got 4 of those left. 2 handles, a jog knob, a C-beam XL gantry plate, and this little piece that was part of the support, and a lead screw. Now, you'll probably have some shims left over if you did the modification of dropping the gantries, and if you buy your V-wheel kits for the expansion, because you'll get shims with those. But that's not many parts left. I've put the mini mill to good use to get a much more capable, in my mind, much more capable machine.